Chapter 1. The Woman Who Saw Ghosts. I should have known the moment she walked through the door that my life was about to shatter. It was a Tuesday night, slow, forgettable, the kind of shift where I balanced trays on autopilot and smiled at strangers who never looked twice. Rossi's, the Italian restaurant where I worked, wasn't fancy, but it was steady, safe, the kind of place where nothing ever happened. Until her. She was older, maybe late 60s, draped in black silk that whispered money with every step. Her hair was silver, swept back in an elegant twist, and her eyes, dark, sharp, unsettling, scanned the room like she owned it. Maybe she did. Everything about her screamed power, the kind that didn't need to announce itself. I was wiping down table 7 when those eyes locked onto me, and she froze. I mean, completely froze, one hand clutching her pearl necklace, her face draining of color like she'd seen a ghost. "Ma'am?" I moved toward her, instinct kicking in. "Are you all right? Do you need to sit down?" She didn't answer. She just stared, her lips parting, trembling slightly. Then she whispered something in Italian, soft, broken, almost like a prayer. "Dio mio, è impossibile." I didn't speak Italian, but I understood shock when I saw it. "Ma'am, please." I reached out to steady her, but she grabbed my wrist first. Her grip was firm, desperate, her skin cool against mine. "Your face," she breathed, her accent thick, her voice shaking. "I know your face." My stomach twisted. I don't think we've met before." "No." Her eyes filled with tears, and it was the strangest thing, this woman, this stranger, looking at me like I was someone she'd lost, someone she'd mourned. "You look like my granddaughter." The words hit me like a slap. I pulled back gently, forcing a smile that felt too tight. "I think you might have me confused with someone else." But she wasn't listening. Her gaze roamed my face, my eyes, my cheekbones, my hair like she was, memorizing every detail. The same eyes, the same mouth. "Dio, even the way you stand. Mama." The voice cut through the air like a blade, low, cold, absolute. I turned, and that's when I saw him. He stood in the doorway, backlit by the streetlights outside, his silhouette sharp and commanding, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black suit that probably cost more than my rent. His presence filled the room instantly, suffocating, magnetic, dangerous. Even from across the restaurant, I felt the weight of his gaze. Dark eyes, unreadable, fixed on me, my breath caught. "Mama," he said again, his voice quieter now but no less commanding. He moved toward us with the kind of confidence that made people step aside without thinking. "We need to leave." The older woman, his mother, shook her head, still gripping my wrist. "Luca, look at her. Look at her." So his name was Luca. He stopped a few feet away, and for the first time, I saw his face fully under the soft restaurant lighting. Strong jaw, sharp cheekbones, a faint scar cutting through his left eyebrow. He looked like he'd walked out of a painting, beautiful and brutal in equal measure, and he was staring at me like I was a problem he needed to solve. "I'm looking," he said flatly. His mother released my wrist and turned to him, her voice urgent, pleading. "She looks exactly like Basta." The word was quiet but final. "Enough." She flinched but didn't back down. "You see it too." "I know you do." Luca's jaw tightened. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something raw, something buried, but it vanished as quickly as it came. He looked at me again, slower this time, and I felt exposed under that gaze. Seen. Studied. "What's your name?" His voice was softer now, but still edged with control. "Elena," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. "Elena Cross." "Elena," he repeated, like he was testing the weight of it. Then, to his mother, "She's not her." "But she's not." The finality in his tone left no room for argument. His mother's face crumpled, and for a second, I saw the grief she'd been holding back, old, deep, unhealed. "I'm sorry," I said quietly, though I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for. "I didn't mean to upset you." She reached out, cupping my cheek with one trembling hand. "You have her eyes," she whispered. "My sweet Isabella. You have her eyes." Isabella. The name settled over me like a chill. "Mama. Now." Luca's hand closed gently around his mother's arm, guiding her back. She let him, but her gaze never left mine, full of longing and something else, something that felt like hope. As they turned to leave, Luca paused. He pulled a card from his jacket pocket and placed it on the table beside me. Thick, black, embossed with gold lettering. "If you remember anything unusual about your family," he said quietly, his eyes locking onto mine, "call me. I don't understand. You will." And then they were gone. I stood there, heart pounding, staring at the card in my hand. Luca Santoro. No title. No company name. Just a phone number. I should have thrown it away. I should have forgotten the whole thing. But I didn't. Because as I watched them disappear into the night, two black SUVs pulling up to the curb like shadows, I realized something that made my blood run cold. I did look like someone. I'd seen her face before in old photographs my mother refused to talk about. In the locked drawer she thought I'd never find. A girl with my eyes, my smile, a girl named Isabella. And she'd been dead for 20 years. Chapter 2. Secrets in the Shadows. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, Luca's mother, staring at me like I was a miracle and a curse all at once. And him, those dark, unreadable eyes that seemed to strip away every defense I had. You will understand. What the hell did that mean? By 3 a.m, I gave up on sleep entirely. I pulled out the shoebox from under my bed, the one I'd hidden away years ago, filled with the fragments of a past my mother refused to discuss. There weren't many photos. My mother, younger, smiling in a way I'd never seen in person. A man I didn't recognize, his arm around her shoulders. And tucked in the back, almost forgotten, a small photograph, edges worn and faded. A little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, dark curls, wide eyes that looked exactly like mine. On the back, in my mother's handwriting, Isabella, my angel. I'd asked her about it once, when I was 12. She'd slapped the photo out of my hand and locked herself in her room for 2 days. We never spoke about it again. But now, sitting in the darkness of my tiny apartment, I couldn't stop staring at that face. The resemblance was undeniable. It wasn't just similar, it was identical. Who was Isabella? Why did she look like me? And why did Luca Santoro's mother think I was her? I grabbed my phone, pulled up the card, and stared at the number. My finger hovered over the screen. Don't do it, Elena. Whatever this is, it's dangerous. But I'd never been good at listening to my own warnings. I hit call. It rang once. Elena. His voice was smooth, controlled, like he'd been expecting me, like he knew I wouldn't be able to let this go. How did you? I know your number now, and I know you wouldn't sleep tonight. My heart hammered. Who are you? Really? A pause, long enough to make me nervous. Someone who keeps his city safe, he said finally, and someone whose family has been broken for a very long time. Your mother said I looked like her granddaughter, Isabella. Another pause. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter, rougher. Isabella was my sister. She disappeared 23 years ago. She was 4. The floor seemed to drop out from under me. Disappeared? Taken. We searched for years. Found nothing. His words were clipped, precise, like he was reading from a report rather than talking about his family. But I heard it, the crack, beneath the control. The grief he'd learned to bury. My mother never stopped looking, never stopped hoping. I'm not her, I said, but my voice wavered. I know. Isabella would be 27 now. You're what? 24? 25? 25. So you're not her. He exhaled slowly. But the resemblance, it's impossible to ignore. And that makes me curious. About what? About who you really are, Elena Cross, and why you look like a ghost from my family's past. My throat tightened. I don't know anything about your family. Maybe not, but someone does. His tone shifted, becoming something darker. Where's your mother? I what? Your mother. Where is she? Why does that matter? Because if you look like my sister, there's a reason, and I intend to find out what it is. My hands were shaking now. You need to stay away from my mother. Elena. The way he said my name made my skin prickle. I'm not asking, and I'm not telling you. Silence stretched between us, taut and dangerous. Meet me tomorrow, he said finally. 3 o'clock. There's a cafe on Merchant Street, Luciano's. Come alone. And if I don't, then I'll find you anyway. But it'll be far less pleasant. The line went dead. I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, heart racing. What the hell did I just get myself into? The next morning I confronted my mother. She lived 20 minutes across town, in a small house with peeling paint and a garden she never tended. I hadn't visited in months. Our relationship was complicated at best, fractured at worst. She answered the door in a faded robe, her hair tangled, eyes hollow. She looked older than she should, worn down by something I'd never understood. Elena? She blinked, surprised. What are you? Who is Isabella? Her face went white. Get out. No. I stepped inside, forcing her back. I'm done with the secrets, Mom. I need to know who she was. Why do I look like her? You don't lie to me. My voice cracked. A woman walked into my restaurant last night and thought I was her granddaughter. A woman named Santoro. She said I looked exactly like Isabella. So tell me who is she? My mother's hands trembled. She sank onto the couch, covering her face. You shouldn't have found out, she whispered. I tried so hard to keep you safe. Safe from what? She looked up at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw real fear in her eyes. From them, from the Santoros, from the truth. What truth? Her lips quivered. That you're not my daughter, Elena. The world tilted. What? You're not mine. Not by blood. Tears spilled down her cheeks. I took you. 25 years ago. I took you, and I ran, and I've been hiding ever since. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. You kidnapped me? I saved you, she said desperately. They were going to use you, trade you. You were just a baby, and they were going to... She broke off, sobbing. I couldn't let them do it, so I took you. I disappeared, and I gave you a new name, a new life. What was my real name? She closed her eyes. Isabella, she whispered. Your name was Isabella Santoro. The room spun. I staggered back, my mind fracturing into 1,000 jagged pieces. I'm Isabella. I'm his sister. I'm the ghost they've been searching for. Elena. I turned and ran. Out the door. Down the street. My lungs burning. My vision blurring. I ran until I couldn't anymore. And when I finally stopped, gasping, shaking, I realized where I was. Standing outside Luciano's cafe, exactly where Luca told me to meet him. I looked up at the window, and there he was, watching me, waiting. Chapter 3. The truth in his eyes. I should have run in the opposite direction. Instead, I walked through the door. The cafe was quiet, old-world elegant, with dark wood paneling and soft jazz humming in the background. A few patrons sat scattered at corner tables, but they barely glanced up as I entered. Luca sat in the back, bathed in afternoon light that cut through the Venetian blinds in sharp, golden lines. He looked up as I approached, his expression unreadable. You came. I slid into the chair across from him, my body still trembling, my mind still reeling from what my mother had confessed. I didn't have a choice, I said. Everyone has a choice, Elena. He studied me carefully, those dark eyes missing nothing. You look like you've seen a ghost. You have no idea. I spoke to my mother. My voice was hollow, detached, like it belonged to someone else. She told me something I don't know how to process. Luca leaned forward slightly, his attention sharpening. What did she say? I met his gaze, and the words felt like razors in my throat. She said my real name is Isabella, that she took me 25 years ago, that she's been hiding me from your family ever since. The silence that followed was deafening. Luca didn't move, didn't blink, but something changed in his face, something raw and dangerous and utterly still. Say that again, he said quietly. She kidnapped me. From your family. I'm not Elena Cross. My hands clenched in my lap. I'm your sister. For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then he stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He walked to the window, his back to me, his shoulders rigid. Luca, don't. The word was sharp, final. I watched him, my heart pounding. He stood there, one hand braced against the window frame, his head bowed. I could see the tension radiating through him, the control it was taking not to break. Do you know what it's like? His voice was low, almost a whisper. To lose someone and spend your entire life wondering if they're alive, if they're suffering, if they're calling for you and you can't hear them? My throat tightened. I was 7 when you disappeared, he continued. I watched my mother scream until her voice gave out. I watched my father tear the city apart, burn every bridge, destroy every person who might have known something. And I watched them both hollow out, year after year, until there was nothing left but ghosts. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. He turned, and the look in his eyes made my breath catch. It wasn't anger. It was something far worse, pain, sharp and unguarded. You were raised by a woman who stole you, who erased you, who let my family suffer for 25 years. She said she was protecting me, that your family was going to what? His voice cut through mine like steel. Trade you? Use you? He laughed bitterly. That's the story she fed you? Isn't it true? No. He moved closer, and I felt the intensity of him like heat. You were the most protected person in this family. My father's youngest child. My mother's miracle baby. You were everything to them. Then why would she take me? I don't know. His jaw tightened. But I'm going to find out. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then looked at me. We're doing a DNA test. Today. What? If you're really Isabella, we'll know within hours. His tone left no room for argument. And if you're not, if this is some elaborate con, then you'll disappear. And you'll pray I never find you again. I'm not conning anyone. Then prove it. The challenge hung between us, heavy and undeniable. I swallowed hard. Fine. An hour later, I was sitting in a private medical clinic I didn't even know existed. Sleek, sterile, and clearly reserved for people who valued discretion above all else. A nurse took samples from both of us without a word, her face professionally blank. Luca watched the entire process, his expression unreadable. When it was done, she disappeared into the back, leaving us alone in the waiting room. How long? I asked. 2 hours, maybe less. He leaned back in his chair, eyes still fixed on me. They're fast when I ask them to be. I looked down at my hands. What happens if it's true? If I really am her? Then everything changes. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. I glanced at him, this stranger who might be my brother. Do you want it to be true? He was quiet for a long time. I don't know, he said finally. Part of me has been searching for you my entire life, but the other part. He trailed off, his jaw working. The other part knows that if you're her, it means someone I should have protected was taken. And I failed. You were 7. I was her brother. The weight of those words settled between us, raw and unshakable. If I am Isabella, I said quietly, I don't remember any of it. I don't remember you, or your parents, or that life. I know. Does that bother you? He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something flicker in his eyes, something that felt like grief. Yes, he said softly, it does. Before I could respond, the door opened. The doctor stepped out, holding a file. His expression was carefully neutral, but I saw the flicker of something surprise, maybe, or disbelief. Mr. Santoro, he said, the results are ready. Luca stood, his entire body tense. And? The doctor glanced between us, then opened the file. It's a match. 99.9% probability. He paused, his voice quieter now. She's your sister. The room seemed to freeze. Luca stared at the doctor, then at me, his face unreadable. And then, without a word, he walked out. I sat there, numb, shaking, the truth crashing over me like a wave. I'm Isabella Santoro. I'm the girl who disappeared. I'm his sister. And somewhere outside, the man who'd just learned I was real and alive was unraveling. Chapter 4. Fractures in the dark. I found him on the roof. The clinic building had a private terrace. Of course it did, and Luca stood at the edge, one hand braced against the railing, his silhouette dark against the evening sky. He didn't turn when I approached, but I knew he heard me. Luca, don't. His voice was rough, frayed at the edges. Just don't. I stopped a few feet away, unsure. I'd never seen someone so still, yet so visibly breaking apart. I know this is... You don't know anything. He turned finally, and the look on his face stopped me cold. His eyes were red-rimmed, his jaw clenched so tight I thought it might shatter. You don't know what it's like to hear that the person you mourned, the person you buried in your mind because it was the only way to survive, is standing right in front of you. I didn't ask for this either. No, you didn't, he laughed, harsh and broken. You got to live a normal life. You got to grow up without bloodstains on your hands or ghosts in your bed. You got to be free. You call that free? My voice rose despite myself. Growing up with a woman who lied to me every single day? Never knowing who I really was? Never belonging anywhere? At least you were alive. The words echoed between us, raw and devastating. Luca's hands curled into fists. Do you know what my mother did after you disappeared? She stopped eating, stopped sleeping. She'd wander the house at night calling your name, thinking maybe you'd answer, maybe you'd come back. His voice cracked. It took 2 years before she could even function again, and she never stopped hoping. Guilt twisted in my chest like a knife. I didn't know, I whispered. Of course you didn't. He turned away again, staring out at the city lights below. And now I have to tell her. I have to walk into that house and say, I found her. She's been alive this whole time, and we didn't know. Will she? Will she want to see me? He looked at me over his shoulder, and something in his expression softened, just slightly. She'll want to see you, he said quietly. But I'm not sure either of you is ready for what comes next. What do you mean? I mean that the woman who raised you, Caroline Cross, didn't just take you out of kindness. There's more to this story. And when the rest of my family finds out you're alive, he trailed off, his jaw tightening. It's going to start a war. A war? There are people who benefited from your disappearance, Isabella. People who moved up in the organization because the succession line was broken. People who made alliances based on the assumption that you were dead. His eyes darkened. And now you're not. The weight of his words settled over me like ice. I didn't ask to be part of this. You were born into it. He moved closer, and I felt the intensity of him again, that magnetic, dangerous pull. You're a Santoro. Whether you remember it or not, whether you want it or not, and that means you're valuable, which also means you're a target. So what do? You stay close to me. His voice dropped, absolute and unyielding. You don't go anywhere alone. You don't trust anyone outside of this family. And you sure as hell don't go back to that woman who took you. She's the only mother I've ever known. She's a kidnapper. The words were ice. And when I find out why she really took you, what she was hiding from, who she was working with. He leaned in, his face inches from mine. She's going to wish she'd never laid eyes on you. I should have been afraid. But instead, I felt something else. Something that curled hot and confusing in my chest. You can't hurt her. Watch me. Luca. She stole 25 years from this family, Isabella. 25 years of grief, of searching, of breaking. His voice was deadly soft now. So yes, I can hurt her, and I will. We stood there, locked in a silent battle of wills, the air between us charged and suffocating. Finally, I stepped back. If I'm staying with you, I need to get my things. No. Excuse me? You're not going back there. Not tonight. Not ever, unless I'm with you. He pulled out his phone. I'll send someone to pack your apartment. You're coming home with me. You can't just... I can. And I am. He looked at me, and there was something fierce and protective in his gaze that I didn't know how to process. You're my sister, Isabella, and I've already lost you once. I'm not losing you again. Luca's home was a fortress disguised as a mansion. High walls, security cameras, men in dark suits stationed at every entrance. The kind of place that whispered danger and power with every polished surface. He led me through the marble foyer, past rooms filled with priceless art and antique furniture, up a grand staircase that felt like something out of a Gothic novel. This is your room, he said, pushing open a door to reveal a suite larger than my entire apartment. It was supposed to be yours. Before. I stepped inside, my breath catching. The room was beautiful, soft whites and golds, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the estate grounds, a canopy bed that looked like it belonged to royalty. But what stopped me cold was the photograph on the nightstand. A little girl with dark curls and wide eyes, sitting on a woman's lap, both of them laughing. That's you, Luca said quietly from the doorway. With our mother. It's the last photo we have before you disappeared. I picked up the frame with trembling hands. The woman in the photo looked younger, softer, the same woman from the restaurant, but unbroken. And the little girl. That's me. That was me. I don't remember her, I whispered. I know. I set the photo down carefully, my chest aching. Will she hate me? For not remembering? No. Luca's voice was firm. She'll just be grateful you're home. I turned to face him. This stranger who was my brother. This man who was both terrifying and heartbreakingly human. What if I don't belong here? He held my gaze, unflinching. Then we'll teach you. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his entire expression changed, hardening into something cold and lethal. What is it? Security footage from your apartment. His jaw clenched. Someone broke in 20 minutes ago. They tore the place apart. My blood went cold. Who? I don't know yet. He looked up at me, his eyes dark with promise. But I'm going to find out. And when I do... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Chapter 5. Ghosts and Promises. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Knowing that someone had broken into my apartment, knowing that I was being hunted by people whose faces I didn't even know. I sat by the window, watching the estate grounds bathed in moonlight, trying to process everything that had happened in the last 48 hours. I'm Isabella Santoro. The name still felt foreign on my tongue, like a coat that didn't quite fit. A soft knock interrupted my thoughts. Come in, I said, expecting one of the staff. But it was Luca. He stood in the doorway, dressed in dark pants and a white shirt. The sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked exhausted, shadows carved beneath his eyes, but his presence filled the room instantly. You should be sleeping, he said. So should you. A faint smile ghosted across his lips, gone almost before it appeared. I don't sleep much anymore. Why not? He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Because men like me don't have the luxury of peace. He moved to the window, standing beside me, both of us staring out at the darkness. I've been thinking, he said quietly, about what you said earlier, about not remembering. Luca, let me finish. He glanced at me, and there was something vulnerable in his expression, something that made my heart ache. When you disappeared, I promised myself that if I ever found you, I'd make everything right. I'd give you back everything you lost. He paused. But I can't do that, can I? Because you didn't just lose time. You lost yourself. I'm still me. Are you? His voice was soft, searching. Or are you someone Caroline Cross created? Someone safe and small and invisible? The question cut deeper than I expected. I don't know, I admitted. Then let me help you find out. He turned to face me fully, his gaze intense. Stay here. Let me teach you who you really are. Who you were meant to be. And what if I don't like what I find? Then at least you'll know the truth. We stood there in the moonlight, the air between us charged with something I couldn't name. Connection, maybe, or recognition. The pull of blood calling to blood. Okay, I whispered. I'll stay. Something shifted in his expression, relief. Maybe, or gratitude. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, I said, trying for levity. You might regret this when you realize how stubborn I am. He actually smiled then, a real one, small and fleeting but genuine. I'm counting on it. Santoros don't break easily. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed again. He checked it, and his entire demeanor changed, hardening into the man I'd first met. Dangerous. Absolute. What is it? My men found footage from your building. His jaw tightened. The people who broke in were professionals. They knew what they were looking for. What were they looking for? You. He looked at me, his eyes dark with something that might have been fear. Or information about you. Either way, someone knows you're alive, and they don't want you to be. A chill ran through me. Who would? That's what I intend to find out. He moved toward the door, then paused. Lock this door behind me. Don't open it for anyone except me or the staff I've cleared. Understood? Luca, understood? The command in his voice left no room for argument. Yes. He nodded once, then left. I locked the door behind him, my hands trembling. Someone wants me dead. The thought was surreal, horrifying. I wasn't a threat to anyone. I was just a waitress who'd learned her entire life was a lie. But I wasn't just a waitress anymore. I was Isabella Santoro, And apparently, that made me dangerous. The next morning, I met her. Luca's mother, my mother, was waiting in the sunroom when I came downstairs. She sat in a high-backed chair, dressed in elegant black, her silver hair perfectly styled. But her hands trembled as she held a teacup, and her eyes were filled with tears the moment she saw me. Isabella. The way she said it like a prayer, like a wound reopening, made my chest tighten. I stopped in the doorway, suddenly terrified. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. She stood, moving toward me with careful, measured steps, like she was afraid I might disappear if she moved too quickly. May I? She reached out, her hand hovering near my face. I nodded. Her fingers touched my cheek, feather light, and a sob broke from her throat. Dio mio, you're real. You're here. I'm sorry, I whispered, though I wasn't sure what I was apologizing for. I'm sorry I don't remember you. Bambina, no. She cupped my face with both hands now, tears streaming down her cheeks. You have nothing to be sorry for. Nothing. You were taken from us. Stolen. And we failed to protect you. It wasn't your fault. It was. Her voice broke. I should have kept you closer. I should have seen the danger. I should have... She couldn't finish. Her grief too raw. Without thinking, I pulled her into a hug. She clung to me like I was a lifeline, her body shaking with sobs that sounded like they'd been held back for decades. I looked for you every day, she whispered against my shoulder. Every single day. I never stopped believing you were out there. I'm here now, I said softly. I'm here. We stood like that for a long time, two strangers connected by blood and loss, trying to bridge 25 years in a single embrace. When we finally pulled apart, she smiled through her tears, a tremulous, hopeful smile that broke my heart. You look so much like your father, she said. Same eyes, same stubborn chin. Luca said that too. Luca. She glanced toward the door, where I knew he was standing just out of sight, giving us privacy, but never truly leaving. He's been lost without you, more than he'll ever admit. He barely knows me. He knows you're his sister. For Luca, that's everything. She took my hands, squeezing gently. He'll protect you with his life, Isabella. He'll burn the world down before he lets anyone hurt you again. The certainty in her voice sent a shiver through me. I'm not sure I want that. You don't have a choice. Her expression grew serious. You're a Santoro, and in this family, we protect our own, no matter the cost. Before I could respond, Luca appeared in the doorway. Mama, we need to talk. His tone made my stomach drop. What happened? He looked at me, and I saw the storm brewing in his eyes. Caroline Cross is gone. Her house is empty. No trace, no forwarding address. His jaw clenched. She ran. The room seemed to tilt. Why would she run? Because she knows I'm coming for her. Luca's voice was deadly soft. And she knows exactly what I'll do when I find her. His mother stood, her hand tightening on mine. Luca, no. She took our daughter, Mama. She let us suffer for 25 years. She doesn't get to walk away. She raised me, I said, my voice shaking. She kept me safe. She kidnapped you. Luca moved closer, his presence overwhelming. And I'm going to find out why. I'm going to find out who helped her, who paid her, who gave her the resources to disappear. His eyes burned into mine. And then I'm going to make sure every single one of them pays. Luca, please. This isn't a negotiation, Isabella. His voice was iron. This is war. And as I looked into his eyes, dark, determined, utterly merciless, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. He meant every word, and there was nothing I could do to stop him. Chapter 6. Blood and Revelations. 3 days passed in a blur of questions, DNA confirmations, and introductions to family members I didn't remember. Uncles, cousins, associates with cold eyes and careful smiles. Everyone wanted to see the lost Santoro princess. Everyone wanted to know where I'd been. I felt like an exhibit in a museum, studied, whispered about, never quite real. But Luca never left my side. He was my shadow, my shield, my constant. Wherever I went in that massive house, he was there watching, protecting, ensuring no one got too close. I should have found it suffocating. Instead, I found it grounding. You don't have to babysit me, I told him on the 4th morning, finding him outside my door again. I'm not going to disappear. I'm not taking that chance. Luca, do you know how many people have approached me in the last 3 days asking about you? He leaned against the door frame, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. 17 different men, all wanting to know your schedule, your security detail, where you go and when. Maybe they're just curious. Maybe they're planning something. His eyes hardened. Until I know exactly who wanted you gone, 25 years ago, and why. You don't leave this house without me. End of discussion. I wanted to argue, but the look in his eyes stopped me. He was terrified. This man, this dangerous, powerful man who commanded an empire, was terrified of losing me again. Okay, I said softly. I'll stay close. Some of the tension left his shoulders. Thank you. But I have conditions. His eyebrow arched. Conditions? I'm not a prisoner. I need space to breathe, to think. I hesitated. I need to understand what I'm part of now. What this family really does. You already know what we do. No, I know the rumors. I know what people whisper, but I don't know the truth. I held his gaze. Show me, all of it. He was quiet for a long moment, studying me. You might not like what you see. I need to know anyway. Another pause, then he nodded. All right, tonight, I'll show you. Luca. She didn't understand what she was asking for. I watched her walk away down the corridor, her shoulders straight, her head high, so much like our mother, so much like the family she didn't remember. She wanted to see the truth, the real Santoro Empire. She wanted to understand the darkness. Be careful what you wish for, little sister. I pulled out my phone, dialing a number I knew by heart. Marco. Meet me in the study. We found something. 20 minutes later, my second-in-command stood across from my desk, his expression grim. Caroline Cross used 3 different identities in the last 20 years, he said, sliding a folder across to me. She moved cities 6 times, changed jobs constantly, always stayed below the radar. Who funded her? That's where it gets interesting. Marco leaned forward. Every 6 months, a wire transfer appeared in her accounts, always from a different source, always carefully laundered, but I traced them back. And they all originated from the same place, a shell company registered in the Cayman Islands. He paused. A company owned by your uncle, Antonio Santoro. The room went cold. My father's brother. Yes. I sat back, my mind racing. Antonio had been my father's closest advisor, his most trusted ally. When my father died 5 years ago, Antonio had supported my claim to leadership without hesitation. Or so I'd thought. He paid Caroline to take Isabella. It looks that way. Why? The question was barely a whisper. What did he gain? Marco's expression darkened. When Isabella disappeared, the succession line was thrown into chaos. Your father had no other daughters, and the old families they believe in bloodline, tradition. With Isabella gone, power consolidated differently. Around Antonio. Yes. Rage, white-hot and consuming, surged through me. Find him. Bring him to the estate. Tonight. Luca, tonight, Marco. I don't care what he's doing or where he is. Bring him to me. Marco nodded and left. I sat there in the darkness, my hands clenched into fists. My uncle, my own blood, had orchestrated my sister's kidnapping, my family's destruction, my mother's 25 years of grief, all for power. And now Isabella was back, which meant his carefully constructed empire was crumbling. He'll come for her. The thought made my blood run cold. He'll try to finish what he started. I pulled out my phone, sent a message to my security chief. Triple the guards around Isabella's room. No one gets close to her without my explicit permission. No one. I couldn't fail her again. I wouldn't. Isabella. That night, Luca took me into the city. We drove through rain-slicked streets in a black car with tinted windows, the skyline glittering like broken glass against the dark. He was quiet, tense, his jaw tight. Where are we going? I asked. To see what we really are. He pulled up outside a building that looked like an upscale nightclub, elegant entrance, velvet ropes, beautiful people waiting to get inside. But when we walked past the main doors and down a side entrance, the glamour fell away. Down, down, down into the basement levels, where the music faded and the air grew cold. We stopped at a reinforced door. Luca pressed his palm against a scanner, and it swung open. The room beyond was stark, concrete, lit by harsh fluorescent lights, and in the center, tied to a chair, was a man, bloodied, beaten, barely conscious. I stopped in my tracks, my stomach turning. "Luca, this is Vincent Romano," Luca said calmly, moving into the room. "He worked for the Corsini family. 3 days ago, he tried to plant a bomb in one of our shipment trucks." The man looked up, his eyes swollen, terror written across his face. "Please, I have a family. So do I." Luca's voice was ice. "And you tried to kill them." He pulled a gun from inside his jacket, smooth, practiced, terrifyingly casual. "Luca, don't." I started forward, but he raised his other hand, stopping me. "This is what we do, Isabella. This is who we are." He looked at me, and his eyes were empty, dead. "We protect our family, at any cost. You don't have to kill him." "Yes, I do." He raised the gun. "Wait." The man's voice broke. "I'll tell you anything. I was hired, someone paid me. Who? I don't know his name." He used intermediaries, burner phones, but he said. The man gasped, blood trickling from his mouth. He said the Santoro princess was back, and she had to disappear before she claimed what was hers. My blood turned to ice. "Who told you that?" "I don't know. I swear. But he had access to your schedules, your security, everything." Luca's expression went deadly still. "Someone inside." "Yes, someone close to you. Please, I've told you everything." Luca pulled the trigger. The sound exploded through the room, deafening and final. I flinched, my hands flying to my mouth, bile rising in my throat. The man slumped forward, lifeless. Luca holstered his gun, turned to me. "Now you know." I stared at him, horror and understanding warring in my chest. "You're a monster." "Yes." He moved closer, and there was no apology in his eyes. "But I'm your monster, Isabella, and I'll do far worse than this to keep you safe." We stood there, the dead man between us, the truth laid bare. And I realized something terrifying. I didn't hate him for it. I should have. But I didn't, because somewhere deep inside, I understood. This was survival. This was family. This was the world I'd been born into, and there was no escaping it now. Chapter 7, Breaking Point. I didn't speak to Luca on the drive back. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that man's face, heard the gunshot, felt the cold finality of death. This is what we do. Luca's words echoed in my mind, merciless and true. When we arrived at the estate, I went straight to my room, locked the door, and stood under the shower until the water ran cold, trying to wash away the memory, trying to make sense of what I'd witnessed, but no amount of water could erase the truth. I was part of this now, whether I wanted to be or not. A knock on my bedroom door pulled me from my thoughts. "Isabella," Luca's voice, muffled through the wood. "Let me in. Go away. I'm not leaving until we talk. Then you'll be standing there a long time." Silence. Then the sound of a key turning. Of course he had a key. The door swung open, and Luca stepped inside, closing it behind him. He'd changed clothes, dark jeans, a black shirt, his hair damp like he'd showered too, trying to wash away the blood. "You can't just barge in here." "I can." I did. He moved closer, his expression unreadable. "You needed to see that, Isabella. You needed to understand what we're up against. By showing me a murder? By showing you the reality." His voice was calm, infuriatingly steady. "People want you dead, not because you've done anything wrong, but because you exist. Because your existence threatens power structures that have been in place for decades." He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could see, the exhaustion in his eyes. "That man would have killed you without hesitation, and he wouldn't have made it quick." I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly cold. "How do you live like this? You learn." He reached out, his fingers brushing my chin, tilting my face up to meet his eyes. "You build walls. You make choices. You decide who matters and who doesn't. And everyone else is disposable? No." His thumb traced along my jaw, a touch so gentle it contradicted everything I'd seen tonight. "But when it comes down to them or you, there's no choice. It's always you." The intensity in his voice made my breath catch. "I'm not worth killing for." "Yes, you are." His hand dropped away, but his gaze held mine. "You're my sister, my blood, And I already lost you once." His jaw tightened. "I will burn this entire city to the ground before I let anyone take you from me again." The conviction in his words was absolute, terrifying, and somewhere beneath my horror, I felt it a dark, twisted part of me that responded to that promise. He'd destroy everything for me. "I don't know if I can be who you need me to be," I whispered. "You don't have to be anyone but yourself." He stepped back, giving me space. "But you do need to understand something. In this world, hesitation gets you killed. Mercy is weakness. And trust." He paused. "Trust is the most dangerous thing you can give. Then how do you survive? By only trusting family. And even then," he trailed off, something dark crossing his face. "Even then, you keep your guard up. Is that why you're always watching me? Because you don't trust me?" "No." His voice softened. "I watch you because I'm terrified of losing you. There's a difference." The admission hung between us, raw and vulnerable. Before I could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, and his entire expression changed, hardening into something lethal. "He's here." "Who?" "My Uncle Antonio." Luca's eyes met mine, and I saw the fury burning. "There. The man who paid to have you taken. The man who destroyed our family for power." My blood went cold. "What are you going to do?" "What I should have done years ago." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Stay here. Lock the door. Don't come down no matter what you hear. Luca, promise me, Isabella." The desperation in his voice made my chest ache. "I promise." He nodded once and left. I stood there, my heart pounding, knowing I'd just lied. Because I couldn't stay here. Not when the man responsible for my kidnapping, for my mother's grief, for 25 years of suffering was downstairs. I had to see him. Had to hear the truth from his own lips. I waited 5 minutes, then slipped out of my room and down the corridor, following the sound of raised voices. The study was filled with people when I arrived. Luca, his mother, several men I recognized as high-ranking family members, and in the center, looking remarkably calm despite being surrounded, stood Antonio Santoro. He was older than Luca, maybe mid-50s, with graying hair and sharp features. He wore an expensive suit and an expression of mild annoyance, like this was an inconvenience rather than a reckoning. "You have no proof," he was saying as I slipped into the shadows by the door. "Wire transfers? Shell companies? That's circumstantial at best. Marco traced every payment back to you." Luca's voice was deadly soft. 25 years of payments to Caroline Cross. Payments that started the week after Isabella disappeared. Coincidence. Bullshit. Luca moved closer, and even from where I stood, I could feel the violence radiating off him. "You paid her to take my sister. You orchestrated her kidnapping. You let our family tear itself apart all so you could position yourself for power." Antonio's expression finally shifted, a flicker of something cold and calculating. "Prove it." "I don't need to prove it." Luca pulled his gun. "I just need you to admit it." "Luca, no." His mother stepped forward, her face pale. "He's your uncle. Your blood." He stopped being my blood the moment he betrayed this family. Antonio laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "You think you're so righteous? So pure?" He looked at Luca with something like contempt. "You're just like your father. Weak, sentimental, letting emotions cloud judgment. My father loved his family, and it made him vulnerable. It made him soft." Antonio's voice rose. The Santoro Empire was crumbling under his leadership. The old families were circling, sensing weakness. Someone had to act. By taking a 4-year-old child? By removing a complication. Antonio's eyes were ice. "Your sister was meant to be married off to the Marconi family, a strategic alliance your father refused to honor. He chose sentiment over strategy. So I fixed it." The room went silent. "You sold me." The words came out before I could stop them. Every head turned toward where I stood in the doorway. Antonio's eyes widened, just slightly. "Isabella, you tried to sell me to another family, and when my father wouldn't allow it, you had me taken." I moved into the room, my body shaking but my voice steady. "How much was I worth? How much did you gain from my disappearance?" "It wasn't personal. I was 4 years old. You were a pawn." His voice was flat, emotionless. "Just like we all are in this world. Your father refused to see that. He thought love and loyalty mattered." He smiled coldly. But power is the only currency that matters, and I accumulated more of it with you gone than I ever would have with you here. Luca raised the gun, pressing it against Antonio's forehead. Give me one reason not to end you right now. Because I'm not the only one who wanted her gone. Antonio's smile widened. Kill me, and you'll never know who else was involved, who else benefited, who else is still waiting for the right moment to finish what I started. You're lying. Am I? Antonio's gaze shifted to me. Did you really think Caroline Cross acted alone? That a waitress with no connections could disappear with a Santoro child and stay hidden for 25 years? He laughed. Someone protected her. Someone powerful. And that someone is still out there. My blood turned to ice. Who? Kill me, and you'll never find out. Luca's finger tightened on the trigger. Luca, wait. I stepped forward. If he's telling the truth, he's manipulating you. Maybe. But can you take that risk? Luca stared at me, and I saw the war raging in his eyes, vengeance versus strategy, rage versus caution. Finally, he lowered the gun. Lock him in the cellar. No food, no water, no contact. He looked at Antonio with pure hatred. You're going to tell me everything. Every name, every connection. And when I have what I need, he leaned in close. I'm going to make you beg for the bullet. Antonio smiled. We'll see. As the guards dragged him away, Luca turned to me, and the look on his face, fury and fear, and something raw and desperate made my heart clench. I told you to stay in your room. I needed to hear it. I needed to know. And now you do. He moved closer, his voice dropping. Now you know that everyone is a threat until proven otherwise. Even family. Not you. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Luca froze, his eyes searching mine. You trust me? I probably shouldn't. I held his gaze. But yes, I do. Something shifted in his expression, something vulnerable and dangerous and impossibly tender, and for one breathless moment, I thought he might. His phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He checked it, and his face went pale. What is it? Caroline Cross. His voice was hollow. They found her body an hour ago. Single gunshot to the head. The world tilted. No, someone didn't want her talking. Luca looked at me, and I saw the truth in his eyes. Antonio was right. There's someone else. Someone who's been pulling strings this entire time. But who? I don't know. He reached out, his hand closing around mine, warm, solid, grounding. But I'm going to find them. And when I do... He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Because as I stood there, my hand in his, the woman who raised me dead, enemies circling in the shadows, I realized something terrifying. I didn't just trust Luca. I needed him. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. Chapter 8. Descent. Isabella Caroline was dead. The woman who raised me, who lied to me, who kept me safe in her own twisted way was gone. I should have felt grief. Rage. Something. Instead, I felt nothing. Just a cold, hollow numbness that scared me more than any emotion could. You should eat something, Luca said from across the breakfast table. We were alone in the dining room, morning light streaming through the tall windows. The estate felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath. I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten in 2 days. I'm fine. No, you're not. He sat down his coffee, his dark eyes fixed on me. Talk to me. About what? The fact that everyone who could tell me the truth is either locked in a cellar or dead? I laughed bitterly. What's there to say? That you're scared. That you're angry. That you're numb. The word came out flat. I'm numb, Luca. I should be devastated that Caroline is dead, but I'm not. I should hate your uncle for what he did, but I just feel empty. He was quiet for a moment, studying me with an intensity that made me want to look away. You're in shock. It's normal. Nothing about this is normal. No, it's not. He stood, moving around the table until he was beside me. But you're still here, still standing. That's what matters. Is it? I looked up at him. Because I feel like I'm drowning, and everyone keeps telling me to just swim. Then stop swimming. His voice was soft but firm. Stop fighting it. Let yourself feel whatever you need to feel. What if I feel nothing? Then feel nothing. He crouched down so we were at eye level. But stop pretending you have to be strong all the time. You're allowed to break, Isabella. You're allowed to fall apart. The gentleness in his voice cracked something inside me. I don't know how to do this, I whispered. I don't know how to be who you need me to be. I don't need you to be anything. His hand covered mine, warm and steady. I just need you to be here. That's enough. I wanted to believe him, wanted to let go of the control I'd been clinging to. But before I could respond, Marco burst into the room. We have a problem. Luca stood immediately, his entire demeanor shifting. What kind of problem? Antonio's lawyers filed an emergency motion. They're claiming unlawful imprisonment, demanding his release. Let them try. They also leaked your sister's return to the press. Marco's expression was grim. It's everywhere. News outlets, social media, underground networks. Everyone knows Isabella Santoro is alive. My blood went cold. How bad? Luca's voice was deadly calm. Bad. The old families are already making moves. 3 different groups reached out asking to verify her identity. 2 others made it clear they consider her return problematic. Threats. Thinly veiled ones. Luca's jaw tightened. Double the security. No one gets on or off this property without my explicit approval. And I want eyes on every major player in the city. If anyone so much as thinks about making a move, on it. Marco left. Luca turned to me, and the look on his face made my stomach drop. What does this mean? I asked. It means the secret's out. And now everyone who wanted you gone 25 years ago knows exactly where to find you. So we're targets. You're a target. I'm just in the way. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. Which is why from this moment forward, you don't leave my side. Not for a second. Luca, I mean it, Isabella. You sleep. I'm outside your door. You eat. I'm at the table. You breathe. I'm watching. His eyes burned with intensity. I'm not losing you again. The possessiveness in his voice should have annoyed me. Instead, it made something warm and dangerous curl in my chest. You can't protect me from everything. Watch me. That night, I found him in his study, surrounded by papers and maps, a glass of whiskey untouched at his elbow. He looked up as I entered, exhaustion written across his features. You should be sleeping. So should you. I closed the door behind me. When's the last time you slept more than an hour? I'll sleep when you're safe. That could be never. Then I guess I'll never sleep. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. Go back to bed, Isabella. Not until you tell me the truth. I moved closer to his desk. Who's behind this? Antonio said someone powerful was protecting Caroline. Who? I don't know yet. But you have theories. His jaw tightened. Several. Tell me. No. Why not? Because if I'm men, right, it means this goes deeper than Antonio. It means there's a conspiracy that's been running for decades. And it means he stopped himself, his expression darkening. It means what? It means someone in this family has been working against us from the inside. Someone close enough to know our movements, our security, our vulnerabilities. He looked at me, and I saw the fear beneath his control. Someone I trust. The implications settled over me like ice. You think it's one of your inner circle. I think whoever killed Caroline wanted her silenced before she could tell us who else was involved. And the only people who knew we were looking for her were, he didn't finish, your own men. Yes. So what do? We trust no one. He stood, moving around the desk until he was in front of me. Except each other. Luca, I need you to promise me something. His hands framed my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. If something happens to me, if I'm compromised or killed, you run. You take the emergency cash in the safe in my room. You take one of the cars, and you disappear. You don't trust anyone. Not my mother, not Marco, not... Stop. I grabbed his wrists, my heart pounding. Nothing's going to happen to you. You can't know that. Neither can you. I held his gaze, refusing to let him look away. So stop planning for your death and start figuring out how we survive this together. Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, maybe, or admiration. You're stronger than I thought. Good. Because I'm going to need to be. I stepped closer, eliminating the space between us. Tell me your theories. Tell me who you suspect, and let me help. This isn't your fight. It became my fight the moment I walked into that restaurant and met your mother. My voice was steady now, certain. I'm a Santoro. Whether I remember this life or not, whether I want it or not. So stop protecting me from the truth and start treating me like family. He, Sting, stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the war raging behind his eyes, the instinct to shield me, battling with the need for an ally he could trust. Finally, he nodded. All right. He moved back to his desk, spreading out papers. These are the people with access to our security systems, our schedules, our safe houses. I looked at the list of names, my stomach sinking. 27 people, all trusted, all family or close associates. One of them is a traitor, Luca said quietly, and until we know which one, we're operating blind. Then we narrow it down. I studied the list, my mind racing. Who had access to Caroline's location? Only 5 people knew we were searching for her. He pointed to names on the list. Marco, my head of security, Victor, my mother's personal assistant, Sophia, and 2 of my enforcers, Dante and Rico. Your mother's assistant? Sophia's been with her for 10 years, since before my father died. Which means she was here when I disappeared. Luca's eyes sharpened. What are you thinking? I'm thinking that if this conspiracy has been running for 25 years, whoever's behind it has been in position for at least that long, which rules out Marco and probably your enforcers. They're too young. But Sophia and Victor, he trailed off, his expression darkening. They're both old enough, both positioned close enough to my parents to have influenced decisions. So we test them. How? I met his gaze, an idea forming. We feed them false information, different details to each person, and we see which one leaks. A slow smile crossed Luca's face, dangerous and approving. You're devious. I'm desperate. I moved closer, my hand covering his on the desk. And I'm not letting whoever did this get away with it. His fingers intertwined with mine, warm and solid and grounding. We do this together, he said softly. Equal partners. Equal partners. But as we stood there, hands clasped, plotting against unseen enemies, I realized the most dangerous thing wasn't the conspiracy. It was the way my heart raced when he touched me, the way I felt safe in his presence despite the violence he was capable of, the way I was starting to need him in ways that had nothing to do with protection. This is wrong, I told myself. He's your brother. But the pull between us didn't feel familial. It felt like something darker, deeper, something that terrified me as much as it drew me in, and I had no idea how to stop it. Chapter 9. The Point of No Return. Isabella. The trap was set. Over the next 48 hours, Luca fed different pieces of false information to each of his suspects. A fake meeting location to Marco, a fabricated witness name to Victor, false evidence about Antonio's assets to Sophia, different details to the enforcers, all carefully designed to be valuable enough to leak, specific enough to trace back to the source. Now we waited. How long do you think it'll take? I asked, watching Luca pace his study. Like a caged animal. Hours, maybe less, if they're desperate. He checked his phone for the 100th time. Someone will move. They have to. I sat on the edge of his desk, exhausted but too wired to rest. We'd barely slept, surviving on coffee and adrenaline, the tension between us growing with each passing hour. Not just the tension of waiting. Something else. Something neither of us acknowledged, but both of us felt. Every accidental touch lingered. Every shared glance lasted too long. I told myself it was the danger, the proximity, the intensity of everything happening around us, but I knew better. Luca. After this is over, when we find who's behind everything, what happens to me? He stopped pacing, turning to face me. What do you mean? I mean, do I stay here? Join the family business? Or do I? I trailed off, not sure what I was asking. Do you want to leave? The question hung between us, heavy with implications. I don't know what I want, I admitted. 2 weeks ago, I was a waitress. I had a simple life, boring maybe, but mine. I met his eyes. Now I'm caught up in conspiracies and murders, and a world I don't understand. And the scariest part is, what? I'm not sure I want to go back. Something flashed in his eyes, relief, maybe, or something darker. You're starting to like it, he said softly. The danger, the power. No, not that. I slid off the desk, moving closer to him. I'm starting to like having people who care if I live or die. Having a family. Having you. You. Having a purpose. Even if that purpose involves violence. Even then. He studied me for a long moment, and I saw the conflict in his expression, pride warring with concern. You're changing, he said quietly. Becoming who you were meant to be. Or losing who I was. Maybe both. He reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear, a gesture so tender it made my breath catch. But I'll be here either way. Whatever you become. Whatever you choose. His hand lingered against my cheek, and suddenly the air between us felt charged, dangerous. I should have stepped back, created distance. Instead, I leaned into his touch. Luca. His phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He pulled away, checking the screen, and his entire expression changed. What is it? Marco just got a call, someone asking about the fake meeting location. His eyes met mine, sharp and deadly. We have our leak. Who? Sophia. My mother's assistant. The woman who'd been with the family for a decade. Trusted and beloved. Are you sure? The call came from her personal phone. He was already moving, grabbing his jacket. Which means she's either the traitor or she's been compromised. Where are you going? To confront her. I'm coming with you. No. Yes. I grabbed my own jacket. You said we're partners. Equal. So stop trying to protect me and let me help. He looked like he wanted to argue, but then he nodded. Stay behind me, and if things go wrong, you run. Understood? Understood. We found Sophia in my mother's sitting room, arranging flowers like it was any other day. She looked up as we entered, and I saw it immediately, the flicker of fear before she masked it with a smile. Luca. Isabella. I didn't expect... Who did you call, Sophia? Luca's voice was cold, controlled. Her smile faltered. I don't know what you don't lie to me. He moved closer, and I saw her instinctively retreat. 30 minutes ago, you called someone asking about a meeting at the Riverside warehouse. A meeting that doesn't exist. A meeting I only told you about to see who would leak it. The color drained from her face. I can explain, then explain. He pulled his gun, not pointing it at her but making his intent clear. And it better be good. Sophia's hands trembled. They have my daughter. The words hung in the air like a bomb. What? I stepped forward. Who has your daughter? I don't know their names. They contacted me 6 months ago. Tears spilled down her cheeks. They said if I didn't feed them information about the family, they'd kill her. They sent me pictures of her leaving school, walking home, sleeping in her bed. They knew everything. Luca's expression didn't change, but I saw his finger shift away from the trigger. Why didn't you come to me? Because they said if I told anyone, they'd know. They said they had eyes everywhere inside the family, inside your security. They said there was no one I could trust. And Caroline Cross? Did you tell them we were looking for her? Sophia nodded miserably. They demanded to know. And when I told them, she sobbed. 3 hours later, she was dead. I didn't mean I didn't want... Where's your daughter now? I asked gently. They move her every few days. I don't know where she is. Sophia looked at Luca with desperate eyes. Please, I know I betrayed you. I know what I did was unforgivable, but please help me get her back. Luca was silent for a long moment. How do you contact them? They contact me. Burner phones. They destroy them after each call. When's the next call? Tonight. They want to know what your next move is regarding Antonio. Luca exchanged a glance with me, and I saw the wheels turning in his mind. Then we're going to give them exactly what they want to hear, he said slowly. You're going to tell them that Antonio talked, that he gave us a name, and that we're moving against that person tomorrow night. But that's a lie. I know. A dangerous smile crossed his face. But they don't. And when they move to warn their asset, we'll be ready. And my daughter? We'll find her. He holstered his gun. But if you betray us again, if you try to warn them or deviate from the script, I won't be merciful. Understood? Sophia nodded, relief and fear mingling on her face. As we left the room, I grabbed Luca's arm. You're using her as bait. I'm using her as an asset. She's a victim. She's a liability who got Caroline killed. His eyes were hard. But she's also our best chance at drawing out whoever's behind this. So yes, I'm using her. And if something goes wrong, if they kill her daughter, then they were always going to. He cupped my face, forcing me to meet his gaze. This is the world we live in, Isabella. We use every resource. We take every advantage. And we don't let sentiment cloud our judgment. Is that what I am? A resource? No, his voice softened. You're the only thing in this world I can't afford to lose. The confession hung between us, raw and vulnerable. And then he kissed me. It was brief, barely a brush of lips, over before I could process it, but it shattered something fundamental between us. Luca, I breathed, my mind reeling. I know, he stepped back, his expression tortured. I know it's wrong. I know we shouldn't. But he broke off, running a hand through his hair. I can't keep pretending I don't feel it. Feel what? You. The word was anguished. Every time I look at you, I see my sister, the girl I lost, the girl I swore to protect. He moved closer again, his eyes burning. But I also see you, the woman you've become. And it's driving me insane because I can't. Stop. I pressed my fingers to his lips. Don't say it. Why not? Because if you say it out loud, it becomes real. And if it becomes real... I closed my eyes, my heart racing. I don't know what that makes us. His hand covered mine, pulling my fingers away from his mouth. I don't care what it makes us, he whispered. I just know I can't lose you. We stood there, the truth between us now undeniable, terrifying, irrevocable. And I knew with absolute certainty that whatever happened next would change everything. The call tonight, I said finally, my voice steady despite the chaos inside me. We see it through. We find out who's behind this. And then we figure out what the hell we're doing. He nodded, but I saw the promise in his eyes. This isn't over, not between us. And God help me, I didn't want it to be. Chapter 10. Truth and Ruin. Luca, I was going to hell. That much was certain. Because as I watched Isabella across the surveillance room, coordinating with Marco, her hair pulled back, her expression fierce and focused. I didn't see my sister. I saw the woman I was falling for. And it was destroying me. She's your blood, I told myself for the 1000th time. This is wrong, forbidden, impossible. But none of that mattered when she looked at me, when she touched me, when she made me feel something other than emptiness for the first time in years. Luca. Marco's voice pulled me back. Sophia's phone is ringing. I moved to the monitor, forcing my focus back to the mission. On the screen, Sophia sat in a secured room, the burner phone in her trembling hand. Remember the script, I said into the microphone. Don't deviate. She nodded and answered. Hello? A distorted voice came. Through electronically altered, impossible to identify. Do you have an update? Sophia swallowed hard. Yes, Antonio talked. He gave them a name. Silence on the other end. Then, whose name? Victor Russo, the head of security. I watched the screen intently. Victor was clean, we'd verified it 6 ways from Sunday. But the fake accusation would force the real traitor to react. When are they moving against him? The voice asked. Tomorrow night, midnight, at the South Docks. Another pause. Then, good work. Keep us informed. The line went dead. Sophia set down the phone, her whole body shaking. Marco looked at me. Now what? Now we watch. I pulled up additional screens, showing surveillance of everyone on our suspect list. Someone's going to panic. Someone's going to move. Isabella moved closer, her arm brushing mine. And when they do, we end this. Isabella. 3 hours later, the movement came. Not from Victor. Not from any of the enforcers. From someone I never expected. Luca. Marco's voice was tight. You need to see this. He pulled up footage from the estate's perimeter cameras. My mother, Luca's mother, was walking toward the south gates. Alone. In the middle of the night. Where is she going? I breathed. Luca's face had gone pale. Track her. We watched as she got into a car, not one of the family vehicles. Something nondescript, and drove away. Follow her, Luca ordered. But stay back. I don't want her to know. We piled into an SUV, Marco, driving, Luca and I in the back. Neither of us spoke. The implications were too horrifying to voice. 20 minutes later, the car pulled up to an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the city. She's meeting someone, Marco said quietly. We watched from a distance as she got out of the car and walked inside. "Stay here," Luca said, reaching for his gun. Not a chance. I was already opening my door. He looked like he wanted to argue, but there was no time. We moved through the shadows, reaching a side entrance to the warehouse. Through a grimy window, we could see inside. My mother stood in the center of the space, illuminated by a single overhead light, and across from her stood a man I recognized from family photos, Antonio. But he wasn't tied up, wasn't a prisoner. He was standing there, free, talking to her like an old friend. "Can't keep her here," my mother was saying. "She's starting to ask questions, starting to remember." "Then perhaps it's time," Antonio replied. "The family needs closure." "No." Her voice broke. "I won't lose her again. Not after everything." "Maria, you promised me." She was crying now. "You promised if I went along with this, if I helped you fake her death, that she'd be safe, that she'd never be used as a pawn." My blood turned to ice. Beside me, Luca had gone completely still. "Your mother," I whispered. "She was part of it. She helped him." "No." The word was hollow. "No, she couldn't have. But the evidence was right in front of us." Antonio sighed. "I kept my promise. She's alive, isn't she? She grew up safe, away from this life. But now she's back. And Luca..." Her voice cracked. "Luca is going to find out what we did. And when he does, he'll understand. Eventually." Antonio moved closer to her. "We did what was necessary. The Marconi family would have destroyed her, used her. This was mercy. This was kidnapping. This was protection." Antonio's voice hardened. "And if you'd trusted me from the beginning, Caroline would still be alive." "You killed Caroline?" "I had no choice. She was going to tell Luca everything. About the plan. About your involvement. About Luca didn't wait to hear more. He kicked open the door, gun raised, his face a mask of betrayal and rage. "Luca," my mother gasped. "Is it true?" His voice was eerily calm. "Did you help him take her?" I can explain. "Did you help him?" Tears streamed down her face. "Yes." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. "Why?" Luca's voice cracked. "Why would you do that? She was your daughter. Because she was going to die." My mother's voice rose, desperate. The Marconi family, they weren't just going to marry her off. They were going to use her as leverage, control her, and if she refused, she sobbed. They would have killed her, Luca. So I made a choice. I let them think she was dead. I paid Caroline to take her far away, to raise her safe and normal. You let me grieve for 25 years. I had no choice. There's always a choice. He was shaking now, the gun trembling in his hand. You could have told me. You could have trusted me. You were a child. How could I? I'm not a child now. His voice echoed through the warehouse. And you're still lying, still hiding things. So tell me, what else haven't you told me? What other secrets are you keeping? My mother looked at me then, and I saw something in her eyes that made my stomach drop. What? I asked. What is it? You're not just Isabella, she whispered. You're not just my daughter. What does that mean? She closed her eyes. You were adopted. Before the kidnapping. Before everything. The world tilted. What? Your father, he couldn't have children. Not after the accident. So we made arrangements. We took you from a family who couldn't keep you. She looked at Luca. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But she's not, you're not blood. Luca finished, his voice hollow. The relief that crashed over me was instant and overwhelming. We're not related. We're not siblings. But Luca looked shattered, the gun dropping to his side. You lied about everything. I protected her. You destroyed this family. His voice broke. You let Dad die thinking his daughter was gone. You let me spend my entire life searching for someone who was never really mine to find. Luca, please, get out. What? Get out of my city, tonight. And if I ever see you again... He raised the gun again, and I saw the tears streaming down his face. I won't be responsible for what I do. Luca, I started toward him. Don't. The word was anguished. Just, don't. My mother fled, sobbing. Antonio didn't move. Are you going to kill me too? Yes, Luca said simply. But not yet. First, you're going to tell me everyone else who was involved. Every name, every connection, Every single person who knew about this. And if I refuse? Luca's smile was cold. Then I'll make you wish I'd killed you quickly. 2 hours later, it was over. Antonio had given up every name, every secret, every thread of the conspiracy that had destroyed my life and Luca's family. And Luca had kept his promise. 1 bullet. Clean and final. Now we stood on the estate grounds, watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of gold and blood. We're not related, I said quietly. No. Does that change anything? He looked at me then, and I saw the war in his eyes, grief and relief and want all tangled. Together. Everything, he said, and nothing. Luca, I raised you, in my mind. For 25 years, you were my sister, my responsibility, He broke off. And now I find out you were never mine, never really family. Does that mean you don't want me here? No. He moved closer, his hand cupping my face. It means I can finally admit what I've been feeling without hating myself for it. My heart stopped. Which is, that I'm in love with you. The confession was raw, broken. That from the moment I saw you in that restaurant, something in me knew. Not that you were my sister, but that you were mine. Luca, I know it's insane. I know we barely know each other. I know this whole thing is fucked up beyond measure. His thumb traced my cheek. But I also know I can't let you go. So if you want to leave, tell me now, before I do something we can't take back. I should have run. Should have walked away from this dangerous, broken man and the violent world he inhabited. But I didn't. Instead, I kissed him. It was desperate, fierce. Years of longing poured into a single moment. He responded instantly, his arms crushing me against him, like he was afraid I might disappear. When we finally broke apart, both of us breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. Stay, he whispered. Stay with me. Rule this city with me. Be mine. I don't know how to be what you need. You already are. His voice was fierce. You're strong. You're brave. You challenge me. You see the monster I am and don't look away. Because I'm a monster too, I said softly. Or at least, I'm becoming one. Then we'll be monsters together. I smiled despite everything. Is that your idea of a happily ever after? No. He kissed me again, slower this time, devastating in its tenderness. But it's the best I can offer. And I'll spend the rest of my life making sure it's enough. Epilogue. SIX months later. Isabella. They say you can't choose your family, but I learned that's a lie. I chose this family, this life, this man, and in return, they chose me. I stood in the same study where I'd first learned the truth, looking at my reflection in the window. I looked different now, harder, sharper, but also whole. I'd learned the business, learned to navigate the darkness, learned to make decisions that kept people alive and ended threats before they could strike. I'd become exactly what Luca said I would, a Santoro, not by blood, but by choice. Arms wrapped around me from behind, and I leaned back into Luca's embrace. Ready? He murmured against my ear. For what? The family meeting, the announcement. Right. Today we were officially telling the organization that I wasn't just Luca's partner in the shadows, I was his equal, his co-leader, his everything. Are they going to accept it? I asked. They don't have a choice. His arms tightened possessively. You've proven yourself. Earned their respect. And anyone who objects. His voice dropped dangerously. Well, they can take it up with me. I turned in his arms, looking up at this man who'd become my world. Do you ever regret it? How we started. Every day. He cupped my face. And not at all. That doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense, Isabella. What we are. What we've become. But I wouldn't change it. He kissed me softly. You were supposed to be my sister, but you became my salvation. Pretty words for a monster. I learned from the best. I smiled, rising on my toes to kiss him back. We'd been forged in lies and blood, our connection born from danger and desperation. But what we'd built from those broken pieces was real. It was ours, and I'd defend it with everything I had. Because I'd learned something in these 6 months. Family isn't just about blood. It's about who you'd bleed for, who you'd kill for, who you'd die for. And as I stood in Luca's arms, our empire waiting, our future uncertain but undeniable, I knew I'd found exactly where I belonged. In the darkness. With him, forever.